All right, let's continue with what really makes the difference between success and failure, even when you're talking about the smartest people on the planet. It is about two certified geniuses and how their lives teach us a powerful lesson. Being brilliant is never, ever enough. Remember Chris Langan? His IQ is so high, it's literally off the charts, one of the highest ever measured. But his journey didn't start in some fancy prep school. It started in a world of serious poverty and neglect. I mean, socks with holes? In America? Let's dig more into the life of Chris Langan. We're going to see how one of the smartest men in America, a guy with just limitless potential, somehow found his path completely blocked at almost every single turn. Langan's early life, honestly, it was a constant fight just to survive. His home was a total nightmare, run by a violent stepfather who would do things like lock away the food. He even used a bullwhip. But despite all of that, Langan's incredible mind just shone right through. He earned full rides to two amazing universities. You'd think, okay, this is it. This is his ticket out. But his first huge obstacle had nothing to do with classes or tests. At Reed College, he was a total fish out of water. This kid from rural Montana, surrounded by sophisticated city kids. And then, a simple piece of paperwork, a financial aid form his mom forgot to fill out, cost him everything. The school basically told him, tough luck, the money's gone. So, just like that, he had to leave. After a stint in construction, he gives it another shot at Montana State. But then, his car's transmission literally falls out. He goes to the dean with what seems like a totally reasonable request. Hey, can I move my morning classes to the afternoon so I can get a ride? The dean's response was just cold, dismissive. He told Lon to make sacrifices. So here he is facing this rigid system that won't bend an inch for him, and Lan drops out for... And here's the tragic result of all that. With no degree, this incredible mind was just left to drift. For decades, he worked manual labor jobs. He was a bouncer on Long Island for years, and all that time in complete intellectual isolation, he was working on this massive theory of everything he calls the cognitive theoretic model of the universe, despairing that he'd ever get anyone to publish. Okay, now, to really understand what went so wrong for Langan, we have to bring someone else into the picture. We need to compare his story to another genius, the famous physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer. He started with the same kind of intellectual gifts, but as you're about to see, his life went down a radically different path. So check this out. Both of these brilliant young men hit a wall, a moment that could have ended their entire future. But look at the scale of their problems. It's just wild. Langan's problem was a bureaucratic mistake. His mom forgot to fill out a form. And Oppenheimer's? He committed a serious crime. He literally tried to poison his mentor at Cambridge. And how the world responded, well, it was just as different. For Langan's pretty minor, fixable problem, the door was just slammed in his face. End of story. But for Oppenheimer's major criminal act, the world found a way to manage him. They put him on probation, they got him help, and they let him continue his studies. And this was a pattern for him. Years down the line, he talked his way into running the entire Manhattan Project. I mean, think about it. He had zero administrative experience, a bunch of questionable political connections, and a history of being pretty unstable. But he had this charm, this savvy that let him convince the world to see things his way. So, this unbelievable contrast between their lives, it raises a really, really important question. If it wasn't raw brain power that separated them, what on earth was it? I mean, really think about it for a second. Both guys had genius-level minds. Both faced huge career-threatening challenges, yet one of them becomes a historical icon and the other ends up as a bouncer. What was the secret ingredient that Oppenheimer had in his toolkit? The answer is something a psychologist named Robert Sternberg calls practical intelligence. It has nothing to do with book smarts. It's basically social savvy. It's knowing how to read a situation, how to persuade people, how to get what you want. And here's the key. It's a learned skill. completely separate from your IQ. Oppenheimer had it. Longan, well, he just didn't. So, if this practical intelligence, this savvy, isn't something you're born with, like a high IQ, what does it come from? Well, it turns out the answer lies in one place more than anywhere else: your family and how you were brought up. A sociologist named Annette Lauro figured this out. She found two totally different parenting styles that fall almost perfectly along class lines. Wealthier parents practice what she calls concerted cultivation, where they're actively managing every part of their kids' lives. Poorer parents tend to follow a strategy of accomplishment, of natural growth, where their job is to provide love and safety, but then let the kids figure things out on their own. So, in this concerted cultivation world, the home is a place of constant negotiation. Parents are always teaching their kids how to talk to adults, how to navigate institutions. They're the ones questioning the teachers, challenging the doctors. And all this practice teaches the children a sense of entitlement. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's the belief that they have a right to be heard and that they can make the system work for them. In this example, just perfectly illustrates it. LaRue talks about this 9-year-old named Alex Williams. His mom literally rehearses with him in the car on the way to the doctor, telling him, "Okay, think of some questions you can ask." So, in the exam room, Alex confidently interrupts the doctor to ask about his height. He's been trained, coached to treat authority figures as his equal. Okay, so here's the crucial point. These skills you learn, this practical intelligence you get from your family, it can be the single deciding factor between success and failure. Now, let's see how this played out exactly with our two geniuses. Oppenheimer's childhood was a textbook case of concerted cultivation. He grew up in a wealthy family in Manhattan, went to a progressive school, his parents nurtured all of his interests. He learned how to talk his way out of a poisoning charge and into running the Manhattan Project because his entire childhood was one long lesson in negotiation and entitlement. Longan, though, he learned a totally different set of lessons from his chaotic, poor childhood. He learned to distrust authority. He learned to be fiercely independent and to never, ever ask for help. And, that was a survival skill when he was a kid, but it became a crippling handicap when he needed help from the system, from a college dean, from a professor. He learned constraint, not negotiation. And look, this isn't just about two guys. Remember the famous decades-long study by Louis Terman on kids with genius-level IQs, and it found the exact same pattern? The most successful adults almost all came from upper and middle-class homes. The geniuses from lower-class backgrounds, they overwhelmingly failed to live up to their potential. All that talent was just squandered. Chris Langan's story is just this powerful and frankly heartbreaking reminder that your individual talent, no matter how huge it is never enough. The skills you need to actually make your way in the world, to speak up for yourself, to negotiate, to ask for a second chance, those are gifts. They're given to us by our parents, by our culture, by our community. And without that support, even the very brightest minds can get left behind.
If you'd like more personalized feedback, writing support, and discussion sessions, they're available with me or with our selected tutors. All the details are here.